If you've been watching my videos on self-discovery, and if you could relate to having so low self-worth and low self-love, then it's time that we upgrade and move up to the next level, that is actually analyzing as to why, as a super sensitive human being, as an empath, why some people attract more of dysfunctional, toxic and narcissistic people in their life. Hi, namaste. This is Dr. Meenu taking you through the process of self-discovery leading to self-healing, self-therapy and soul cleansing, so that you travel lighter on this journey of the planet with less of emotional baggage. If you're liking my content, please hit like button and subscribe to my channel. It will help me reach out to the maximum community, and also it will encourage me to produce more of such content. So to start with, I am an empath. In fact, I can claim that I'm a super empath. I have always gravitated towards dysfunctional, toxic and narcissistic people. Not just gravitated towards them, I have also attracted them time and again as a pattern, as a repetitive cycle which I have observed in my past. I have always had more of my life has always been polluted or crowded with narcissistic people, both in my personal as well as professional sphere. So much so that I was mostly engaged in trying to please them, trying to defend myself, my own position, trying to over contribute and keeping the narcissistic people sane, and this was eventually depleting me of my energies and slowing down my progress on the other field. You see, the universe works in a very balanced manner. It's all about energies. You put your energies into positive aspects and you get back the positive outcomes. You put your energies into negative aspects, you get back the negative outcomes. For example, in my case, when you try to fix people, when you try to engage with low vibrational, negative, dysfunctional, toxic and narcissistic people, what happens is your energies, they are getting depleted in those activities. So the outcome that you will gain is, let's say it's happening in your personal sphere, your growth will get stalled in your professional sphere, and it is vice versa. In professional sphere, if you're giving and trying to fix people, places, situations, your projects, if you're trying to fix them, if you're trying to defend your position, over contribute, trying to please people, what will happen is your growth will slow down in your personal sphere, and it will suffer either professionally or personally. You'll end up suffering. Now, narcissism is one topic on which I can go on and on talking about it. Maybe I can cover more than 100 videos on narcissism, because of the practical exposure that I had in each phase of my personal as well as professional life, and also the thorough literature that I have gone through. In fact, I would encourage you all to go through the videos of Dr. Les Carter and Dr. Ramani. They have a very clear perspective on what narcissism is, what kind of traits they exhibit, how you can handle them. Of course, handling them is not a small thing, but they do give an insight into, in case you get trapped into such relationships, how to handle them, how to tackle with them, and how to, in case it is possible, how to get away from such relationships. As I said, I can talk a lot about narcissism, but in this video I'm trying to focus my energies only into what are narcissistic characters and why, as super sensitive empaths, we end up attracting narcissistic people, or worse so, we get gravitated towards such people. So to start with, narcissism is basically a personality disorder which is caused due to some kind of childhood trauma, which a person encounters during childhood. Now, trauma usually, as the name scares, that it must be something which is a very massive event which occurs in somebody's life. It's not so. Trauma could even be something very subtle and something which is as a repetitive pattern which happens with the child, something like neglect, the caregiver not paying too much attention or ignoring, somebody not being emotionally available to the kid. As an infant, the kid only wants unconditional love and attention from their parents. So any trauma that a person undergoes could result into two things: either the person becoming an empath, wherein he tries to absorb the pain of others, thinking that what happened to me should not happen to others. The other extreme is the person shuts himself or herself down and ends up becoming a narcissistic character. So narcissistic characteristics basically would be defined by two broad parameters. One is loss of empathy. The empathy completely dies down. And another is feeling of grandiosity. Feeling of grandiosity is something like where a person thinks that everybody is born here to please me and I'm above all. So that is the kind of basic parameters which define narcissistic characters. Of course, there are 4 different types of narcissistic characters theoretically. I'll just briefly take you through that. One is overt narcissist, covert narcissist, malignant narcissist, and communal narcissist. Overt, as the name suggests, is something wherein a person very explicitly shows his controlling, manipulative, grandiose behavior, and that lack of empathy is very explicitly seen by the people. I'll just try to explain this with the help of a small example of an infant. Now, let's say you're dealing with an infant who wants a toy, and the infant is very arrogantly showing attitude by throwing tantrums, by crying, by putting pressure, manipulations. This is a manipulation strategy of a kid, by throwing tantrums towards the caregiver. So the caregiver eventually gets fed up in 1 or 2 hours and either ends up buying the toy, or probably if the toy is lying with the caregiver, he or she ends up giving the toy to the infant. Now what happens is, the moment a toy comes in the custody of this infant, he does either two things. He either plays with the toy for 15 minutes, or he ends up breaking each part of the toy and then gets bored with the toy within 15 to 20 minutes. That's how the overt narcissists behave. Either in personal or professional situations, they would be very demanding, they would be asking for this, that, give me this, give me that. They're always putting people on their toes. People have to, run around them to please them. At home, you must have encountered uncles, aunties, or somebody who's like that. In office, it must be also, you must have seen people like these who create a havoc the moment they reach in the office. This file, that file, this project, confusing their people and creating a kind of chaotic environment. And the moment things are easily handed over to them, or things are handed over to them, they tend to get bored of the project or bored of whatever demands they have put in within 15-20 minutes, and they would just leave it aside and the next project or the next demand starts. That is overt narcissism. The feeling of grandiosity and the feeling of lack of empathy still remains. They do not have any, they cannot process the emotions of empathy, as simple as that. In case of covert narcissism, as the name suggests, coverts are very implicit. So in my experience, because I've had wonderful opportunity of interacting both with the coverts and overts, coverts are very dangerous. They're very dangerous people, because you may take months and even years at times to recognize that you're dealing with a covert narcissist. They do it in a very subtle manner. They do it so silently that on the surface you might feel that he or she is your good friend, he or she is trying to help you out, but beneath the surface what happens is only known to the covert. He might sting you at the last moment, he might crush you, because mentality is the same. It's about grandiosity, that first of all, no narcissist can ever operate with the mentality of equal give and take. It's always I'm above them. So friendships, other relationships as an equal give and take never exist in their life. So covert also would operate with the same mentality, that he will not show that grandiosity in a very explicit manner. Deep within, yes, he's confirmed that even if he or she is my friend, I'm above him or her. And secondly, that loss of empathy. There is no empathy towards any friend, any relative, anybody. It's like they're there to please me, and as long as they're supplying me with the demands that I have, if they are able to supply me and offer me all that, they are of use to me. Otherwise, I can dump them and discard them at any point of time. Then third one is, as I said, malignant narcissist. Malignant, as the name suggests, they go on to become criminals. They are in office professional setup. These are the people who commit frauds, who steal the money of the company, who wouldn't think once before having low work ethics and cheating or stealing the company's money. In professional network, this is what they do, and in personal also, stealing the money from their own people, committing any wrong acts in the home. That's a very normal thing for malignant narcissists. So yes, the feeling of grandiosity and lack of empathy still exists in malignant, but they are a little more dangerous on the other parts. As I said, the corrupt officials, the criminals, they are usually the malignant narcissist. The last ones are communal narcissist. Communal narcissist, basically, if you come across social media, you'll find a lot of people doing some kind of charity works and clicking the pictures and then putting it on the social media that they have given some amount there in this Bal Bhavan or somewhere they have contributed some money, and clicking those pictures and putting it there. Now you would say, so what? There are so many people entrepreneurs who have a lot of money and they do give into the charity. So what is wrong in that? You cannot call everybody as a narcissist, communal narcissist. You're right. The intent with which this activity is done differs for communal narcissist and a normal person. A normal person would also give something as a charity and click pictures and put it on the social media, but the basic intention of doing this is, the society has done so much for me and it is my turn to give back to the society. Whereas in case of a narcissist, a communal narcissist, what happens is, the basic intent, the fundamental intent of doing this is, I'm above all of them, so I'm giving away. So there is a difference, huge difference in the mentality with which they do. So not all who post some charity work on social media are narcissists. The intention varies, which certainly you can understand if you are close to them, or the way they write their status updates, that very clearly specifies with what intention they are giving this money away. So these are 4 types of narcissistic characters. If you can relate to somebody whom you have come across professionally or personally, we'll go a little more further, generally talking about all the 4 types of narcissists. One very beautiful thing which I have noticed about narcissism is, you see, we are all taught how to be good engineers, doctors, managers, HR professional, finance professional, administrator, defense officer, or doctors, and whatever it is. To put people on the same level playing field, they are given training. In case of narcissism, all across the globe, there are 3 stages which defines narcissistic characters, and surprisingly, no education is ever given about how to become a narcissist. But all the studies I have done a lot of literature study, a lot of videos watching, and all the narcissists follow the same patterns sooner or later. Those 3 patterns are: One is the relationship, whether it is a professional one or it is a personal one, will start with love bombing. So love bombing is when they come as a very charming people, attracting and creating that bond, making you feel that you're very special, you're beautiful, your work is excellent, depending upon whether they are charming you in the professional atmosphere or personal atmosphere. And usually these narcissistic people are mostly in authoritative positions. Yes, you do find them in the lower cadre also, but mainly in the authoritative positions. So the first stage that they follow is attracting you through love bombing, making you feel that you are so special, you are so good, beautiful, charming, so much so that in personal relationships they would make you believe that they are soulmates. They have a very chameleon kind of characters, and within few minutes, within few days, they'll understand your preferences, color preferences, eating preferences, your habits, and they start emulating the same thing to you, as if showing to you that you and he or she exhibit the same kind of preferences in all the activities, so must be a soulmate. So in professional atmosphere, it's like the way you prepare reports is, oh my god, I'm so satisfied and happy with your content writing, with your report writing, and with your work. So in the initial few months, the victim would be made to believe that he or she is the best. So that is the level of adulation the victim would go through in the initial phases. As time passes, the process of devaluation starts. Now, with the problem is with narcissism is that the consistency level is never achieved. So whatever they do is always very inconsistent. So their behavior is never on a consistent level. It goes up, down, up, down. So if they love bombed you, they appreciated you, within few months the interest level and the boredom comes to the forefront, and they start devaluing you. In the devaluing phase, to their employees, they'll start finding faults in the same reports which at one point of time looked very fascinating, now would become very full of flaws and errors, and they'll start pointing your mistake. At home, they'll start criticizing their own people, blaming them. If initially they really felt that somebody is a very good homemaker, a few months later they'll start finding some mistakes and critically blame them. You don't keep the home properly, and you do not know how to handle home or how to handle kids and all that. So the first stage is love bombing. It gradually comes down to devaluing, wherein they start devaluing their victim on all those characteristics on which at some point of time they were very appreciative of. The last stage is discarding. Now comes the stage wherein they sort of dump or discard their victim. Now, one very interesting fact here is that they usually do not discard their victims forever. So they have a harem garage. As per the literature, they always keep a lot of victims in their garage. And what happens is, when the discard happens, discard is basically characterized by silent treatment. So they would suddenly stop talking to you. You would be craving for their attention as to why they are not talking. Most easiest way to identify a narcissist is, at some point of time, if somebody has given you silent treatment for few days, leading to few weeks, then leading to few months. Oh, I have been a victim of that so many times. In my office also, in my home also, I have seen all that, done that, been there. So I know silent treatment is their way of punishing their victim. So for them, it's like the victim has done something wrong and I'm punishing him or her, which is emotional abuse. So which is an emotional abuse. So now this discard may happen for few weeks, or as I said, few months, but eventually they come back, because while this discard stage is going on, the silent treatment is going on, and the victim is trying to gradually detach himself or herself from the narcissist, thinking that this is not going to work, this is not working, and I must detach myself energetically as well as emotionally. The moment they feel that the victim is detaching, they come back and repeat the same cycle of love bombing, devaluing, and discarding. So that is what I said about consistency and inconsistency. What happens is, because the love is never consistent, but what happens is the victim, he lives with the memories of those good times that he had seen, and that those times are so charming that the victim remains trauma bonded. So he keeps waiting for those breadcrumbs, those are breadcrumbs wherein he's made to believe that some at some point of time you will be given some love. Like a drug addict, the victim keeps waiting for those adulations, those appreciations, those words of appreciation. So the cycle keeps repeating. He'll again love bomb, again devalue, again discard, and the victim again comes back thinking that now this is not going to happen. This was the last cycle. He's again, because he is feeling sorry for his behavior, and he or she is going to be now very full of appreciation of my hard work. So the victim usually spends a lot of time trying to please the narcissist, who will never be pleased. Who will never be pleased. He or she is so busy engaging in squeezing the energy and depleting you of your resources, time, money, energy. And the moment he or she devalues you or discards you, do not think that the way, as a victim, you might be thinking that, oh my God, what wrong did I do? Why am I, why is he or she is not talking to me? That narcissist is busy looking for a new supply, love bombing the new supply, trying to gradually repeat the same cycle of devaluing and discarding the new supply. So in the garage, he already has 5 to 6 supplies at one point of time, and the cycle is repeating with all those 5-6 supplies, one by one. So by the time your turn comes, it may be 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, sometimes 8 months, 9 months, depending upon your good luck or bad luck, whatever you may call it. So that is what I said. In case of narcissism, nobody teaches anywhere across the globe as to how to become a narcissist, but the cycle being adopted by them is the same all across the globe. And that is why my request to Indian policymakers because we need to empower our youth, we need to empower our citizens to be prepared so as to deal with such characteristics. See, this is a personality disorder which cannot be cured. This cannot be treated. You can only save yourself. Being an empath, you can only save yourself if you understand as to what is the cycle, what kind of treatment they are going to give you. And that is why, to the Indian policymakers, I always make a request in almost all my videos to start a curriculum from 5th grade onwards for kids to understand what these characters are and how they can harm your self-esteem. You got to save yourself, and eventually you got to save your energy. And as I said, energy is everything. You balance it well, you put it on right projects, put it on healthy situations, positive people, healthy people, you will get the positive outcome. You put it on negative situations, dysfunctional people, toxic people, narcissistic people, you will repeat the same pattern in your life again and again. So with this understanding, I'll move forward as to why, as a super empath or a super sensitive individual, you have been attracting narcissistic personalities in your life. Now, as I said, this disorder happens due to the childhood trauma, some kind of childhood trauma, wherein either there was too much of neglect, physical abuse, verbal abuse, or emotional abuse. The child was vetted out some kind of abuse, and he or she closes down, shuts down, and the wound, which was never healed, comes back in the form of mistreating people. And surprisingly, for empaths also have undergone some kind of childhood trauma. Only thing is, with narcissists as well as empaths, if both have undergone childhood trauma, why are they so different? The way they behave, the way they handle this trauma is different for both of them. For an empath, because I did not get the right unconditional love, care, consideration, or because I was neglected or ignored by my caregivers, I will never bet out the same kind of treatment to people around me. That is the kind of mentality they develop. With narcissists, the mentality goes on the other side. Because I was not treated well by my caregiver, I have every right to protect myself in future by manipulating and controlling people, because this is the only way I can get my things done. Otherwise, people will not give me what I want. So this is again about how you accept the challenge that is that the childhood trauma has given you. So although both of them are low in self-worth, both of them, empaths as well as narcissists, they are low in self-love, but the way they try to attract or receive self-worth is different. An empath, he thinks that the only way I can have self-worth is by getting appreciation from others, by over contributing in situations, so that when somebody says, oh wow, you've done a good job, that defines my self-worth. In case of narcissist, it's the other way around. The only way I can get self-worth is by controlling and manipulating people, so that they are forced to admire me, they are forced to appreciate me. So the kind of work that both decide to put in is completely opposite. This narcissist would say, you work for me so that I realize that I have high self-worth and I am being loved. And empath says, if I put in too much of work in the situations people faces, if I try to fix them, if I try to please them, that defines my self-worth. And that is the reason both of them fit each other as a puzzle, as a piece of puzzle. And that is the reason empaths always end up attracting narcissists, and narcissists always gravitate towards empaths. You sit in a room with 20 new people or 50 new people, you'll always realize, if you look back, that you gravitate towards 2 or 3 people whom you feel, yes, they are my types. And those my types might either be a healthy people because you are healthy in a high vibrational state, or you are in a low vibrational state, so you are ending up attracting somebody which is a narcissistic character. It has happened in my case again and again and again. In office also, I have noticed that most of the times I had narcissistic people gravitating towards me or me gravitating towards them, only to realize later when it was too late that the damage was already done. So what is the solution to this attraction, this opposite attracting each other? Solution is, if you are an empath who has a dysfunctional, I would say, childhood or some kind of childhood trauma which needs healing, you need to heal yourself, because as far as narcissists are concerned, most of the literature studies claim that narcissism is a disorder which can never be cured, it can never be treated, because empathy, once it dies, it can never be brought back. There is one spiritual leader, Christina Lopes, you can go through her videos. Of course, she is the only one who claims that narcissism can be cured through right meditative techniques. I can accept that claim, because as an empath, I healed my traumas through her meditative techniques, and I feel much more confident in my skin today, and I feel I have healed a lot, and those small triggers, they don't bother me anymore. Yes, empaths can be healed, that is for sure, and the healing basically starts with going within, understanding your traumas. It's a tough process, it's a little painful process also. When I was going through my healing process for almost 6 to 7 months, the meditative techniques that I adopted, the affirmations that I gave to the universe, initially did cause me a lot of pain, because to go within and address those small childhood stages when you had when you felt alone, when you felt needed, when you felt in need of unconditional love and you were left all alone. To address those stages would at times even mean during the meditative stages crying a lot, and I have done that for months, to reach a stage wherein when I think of those stages today, that inner child of mine is totally protected. So it doesn't make me cry or feel sad. It just makes me feel that that little Meenu who was unsafe at some point of time is safe today. So I hope this video has given you an insight about why as a super sensitive and empath personality we end up attracting dysfunctional, toxic and narcissistic personalities in our life. We cannot change them, but I think we can heal ourselves, and that is important, because once you heal yourself, you start operating from high vibrational environment, and in the high vibrational environment, if you sit in a group of 20, 50, 100 people, you'll gravitate only towards high vibrational people. They will gravitate towards you, and automatically that attraction towards narcissism and dysfunctional and toxic people will die down. So I hope this video has been of some help to you. In the next series that I plan to start, I want to start the process of healing, and if you sincerely feel that you have reached a stage wherein you want to get away from the repetitive patterns, the repetitive cycles, we must meet again in the next series, wherein you'll understand how to get rid of codependency, how to get rid of people pleasing habits, how to get rid of over contributing in situations, and there's lots more which I plan to cover in the next series. So see you in the next videos, and thank you so much if you've come this far. I'm thankful to you all. Thank you very much.